So where are you today, Draw?
I'm in New Zealand, Wanaka, South Island.
Yeah, nice. There has been a lot last week, particularly in Australia, going on in the whole early stage AI space. I know there were some events that you were at, I was at, we were hosting, as well as additional other events. And so I'd love to maybe spend today talking a little bit about what you saw, what we're seeing. So look, I think all those events happening the last few weeks in Australia, particularly, which is where our focus is, to me makes me really excited. And seeing, from this year to last year, just the numbers are increasing massively. But yeah, why don't we kick off with that draw? I wasn't able. I was in Melbourne. You were in Sydney. I know you and some of the team were there at the Build Club. Why don't you sort of do a bit of a rundown of what you saw? Maybe we can have a chat about some of the companies that you saw that were doing that at demo day.
Last week was the Build Club demo day. Build Club is a type of incubator slash accelerator, basically a group of founders of super early stage startups that basically share their working space. They go through a program. It's designed like it's always better to build together because you motivate each other, you learn faster, you can keep each other on target and keep each other honest. You got accountability like that. I really like that idea. Build Club had a demo day, and at the end of this kind of 6 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is, they basically all get to pitch. They make an event out of it. There's something to eat, something to drink, but there's an audience. And actually, what surprised me is like how big the audience was. At the end, it was maybe 12 companies, something around that. And there was a few other people in the audience. And there was from investors to other entrepreneurs. So it was the local ecosystem. That was great to see. When I lived in San Francisco, there was many of those events because the ecosystem is an order of magnitude bigger, and there's a huge crowds coming into those kind of things. And in Australia, I think there's still up and coming. So it's great to see this evidence that, I would say Australia is always 10, 15 years behind, which is good if you come from abroad, you know the future. So it's a good for investors to know what's going on now or what happened 15 years ago, and you can kind of get a sense of what will be successful. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. We saw some really interesting companies. It was really focused on generative AI, not only, but mostly. And it was good to see, the local crop of the next generation of those startups. I really liked it. That was a great event. Maybe we can get the event organizer Annie to be in one of our shows. We're trying to do that.
Well, Annie was meant to be here today, but I know she's running around doing lots of things, so it didn't quite work out timing wise. But I think, yeah, look, I think Annie is bringing what's there in the US here, and obviously she spends a bit of time in the US, and I think it's really good to have this ecosystem building. But also, I think the top few companies are going to go to the US as well on a bit of a trip, and so I think it's really healthy, really great to have all of those things happen, and really energizing for people. So what are maybe a few of the companies that you saw there, and maybe there's some things that we could share with people just to kind of highlight, what you saw, and who were the sort of standouts.
Great question. So yeah, there was four winners. Meritech did win. That was good.
There was quite a few companies. So why don't you just tell me a little bit about what was some of the themes you got out of that?
So there's been a few companies that caught my eye that I like. What I did notice is that they're definitely applying AI on verticals, which is a good thing to do. Uh, my thesis here is that you look at this new capabilities of this new technology and you figure out how can you disrupt and unseat some other competitor to take away their business. Keep it simple. So where is this technology can be applied and how do you win? That's basically the conversations. So we've seen some HR tech, uh, which is kind of HR slash mental health type tech. Again, what's the pitch? The pitch is that use this platform. It's basically B2B SaaS powered by AI, which I like. And the pitch is, every small to medium company that have HR issues, there's not a lot of technology to help them where it comes to all sorts of regulatory pressure that they do feel, but they're too small. So they have like, here's technology that can help you in that. managing your employee, the usual employee onboarding and onwards. So it's this whole area of employee engagement and employee management and HR is I think ripe for disruption with this current technology wave. So I like that. Um, their company agency. My pitch of it. Okay, so it's like I listen to him and I'm like pitching it back to you. So tell me what you think. Small to medium companies can't actually use agents, AI agents, because it takes a little bit of technical expertise still, but they can really use the value of those type of technologies. So if you bridge that gap and allow them to employ AI agents, you can make you stand a chance for like a nice B2B SaaS type platform. So agency is doing something interesting. Basically, if your company needs a marketing agents, you can use this technology to do that, automate some of that, interface with various systems and platforms, the Google, the Facebooks, and so forth. I think it's an interesting and promising area of potential growth.
I know Tim, the founder. Tim's actually a friend of mine, and just that's a really good example of someone who's a great founder who's actually, he's come out of a larger organization that he'd established and grew to being a multi-million-dollar company, and has stepped aside and seen the power of AI and gone, I want to go into this. And Tim actually isn't a techie founder, but I know he's pretty good at working things out. And I've seen Tim talk about agency and how he wants to make it accessible to people to have all these agents that can go and solve all these problems. And his previous business, that's what he was doing, but with people. And so he's clearly seen that opportunity. Sure, there are other people doing this thing, but he's really targeting a certain kind of organization. And so I think it's really good to see people like Tim who are, just coming to a whole new area, developing in this. And I know he's trying to, build that, that into something pretty big, which I hope he can do. So yeah, just I guess my feedback on that. I talked with Tim and seen what he was doing, seen it evolve from an initial concept to the building upon it. And I think this opportunity to have a sprint essentially to get something out has been really useful from what I gather. But yeah, Tim's awesome as well. And I guess what little I've seen of that has been look, it's all early but good, and you can see how it's going to play out, and you can see that there's need. Every smaller businesses and medium-sized businesses need assistance in what they're doing, and if you can do that through AI agents, it's a no-brainer for me. And like I say, sure, there's many products out there, but I think there's a niche for everyone if they can find what those things are, making it accessible, making it on brand tone, and so forth. I think it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's a good plug. We've seen some sales training systems. So it's interesting. Instead of how you every time you record, you get on a phone with a bank and they record those for training. But it says this call may be recorded for training purposes, right?
Yeah.
What they use with that for is analyzing the efficacy of their staff, give them feedback as well as coaching and so forth. So we've seen some interesting examples of how you can use AI agents and just generative AI, to better train your salespeople, let alone replace salespeople. So I think that's an interesting area of growth and innovation. How about I say interesting area of innovation or potential disruption? So there's a really interesting company that was building products to serve that. And one of my favorites was Meritech, which was a legal technology. So if you stop and think, really, what is this generative AI technology innovation wave enable? It's the summarization of long texts and generation of texts. In a way, they summarize the internet, to generate answers to queries. That's kind of what this technology is doing. And what is, been notoriously difficult to innovate in is in word-heavy domains, language-heavy domains, because, previous generations, technologies couldn't actually understand what the hell is going on inside the text. They can help you around it. So a word processing or a document archiving system or document watermarking or signing technologies, sure, are used by agents such as lawyers, accountants, and so forth. But those technologies don't know what's going on inside the body of text. But now these new AI technologies are able to bring computing and into that kind of black box of text that was before and start innovating there. We've seen some cool technology that really helps lawyers summarize huge long documents that is a part of almost every case that they take. So that's kind of looks interesting, and I think I was very impressed with the capabilities. What's your take?
Yeah, look, I like the guys at Meritech. We've been talking to them for some time, and I like what they're doing. But I mean, how just so people understand, how is that different to just putting something legal in ChatGPT or Claude or something like that? What are they doing that's special? And I guess, yeah, what are they doing that's different? I guess from my point of view, because a lot of people assume you can just throw these documents into one of the tools and it's going to spit out something useful. And I think
Right.
one of the things that's been discussed quite often is there's 25% hallucination, meaning
Right.
it's kind of making up things or it's not true. So you can't do that when you're dealing with legal matters, or you can, and people have tried that, but they've got in trouble. So so what are they doing, and what makes that special?
Well, they use I'm not their CTO, and we may bring them to this one of the shows, but what I've seen is that there's a whole pipeline of software modules you need in order to start from, like, here are my document set, and here's a verifiable summary of events example in that document set, or whatever is your query, and it has to be referenceable. And as you know, AI bots and AI kind of models are good in generating the text for you, but quite bad in telling you exactly where they got it from, and being able to verify that, which is a very important capabilities that you need when you start serving the legal market. For the reason that even 5% hallucination is getting something wrong is basically a non-starter, because you build your entire case on shaky foundation. So I think that what impressed me is that the entire pipeline that they put together is made out of custom IP as well as kind of models, and wrapping it up in a way that, enable a small to medium office all the way to up to a big enterprise type customer in that space to adopt. That's non-trivial. There's data provenance issues, legal issues related to compliance that you need to, where's your query going, where is it used for training, and so forth. So I see this, the chance that a lawyer somewhere will drop their case into ChatGPT and actually as part of their legal as part of their workflow, I think are low. And therefore, that is a ripe area for introducing solutions to. What do you think?
From my point of view, one of the opportunities for companies is to tackle high value jobs and do it quicker, faster, better. And so for me, what I like about what they're doing is they've niched in a particular area of high value to lawyers and to people using those services to do that in a more effective way. So I think you can, there'll be a big demand for what they're doing. And so I think that's really interesting. And a bunch of nice guys as well. Anything else that sort of struck out to you around, and that was at the event? Because I know one of the big things is I think the top few teams that were out of there, top few companies are going to go to the US and do a bit of a tour around there and meet some other people within the industry.
I've seen two startups that were trying to make it easier and faster for smaller companies create models or source models. So in a way, there's shortage on GPUs global, right? So they're owned by the future pipeline of all CPU for the foreseeable future is already pre-booked and owned by some big tech. So that is a constraint, and there's an argument that says, well, training models is something that the big boys are doing, but little boys would like to do as well. How do you allow them to do that? And there's some solutions around essentially, it's a bit like you know how servers used to. Everybody has to have their own servers, and then there's this ability to. And then hypervisors came, and they're like allow you to have multiple applications on single hardware. So it's like sharing resources between. Uh, um, it's like time sharing in a way, if
Yeah.
borrowing uh, from real estate and from tourism. So it's time sharing on software on hardware that's like allowed cloud computing to become a massive market. So I saw some ideas around doing the same for the GPU sort of vertical, sort of the training vertical for AI models. And basically, the argument that every second that GPU is not crunching some data for someone is a lost revenue opportunity for someone. But how do you actually do that, and how do you manage that and provision that and says that you know, there's a few companies that are attacking that problem, which I found pretty interesting.
Is there anything else you wanted to sort of talk about that was there?
I think I'm done. What do you have?
So look, that wasn't the only event. Look, and the reason I couldn't be there at the Sydney event is we were hosting our own Dazed and Diffused. I think it was our ninth one in Melbourne, and we had a packed room. We had 150 people, 40, 50 people on a wait list. And so, once again, we're seeing a demand for people really wanting to learn and be part of a community. And it's maybe not as technical in terms of all developers and so forth, but definitely a mix of really interesting people. And so we had three companies present there, and one was Jonathan Burrell from Leonardo, and so they showcased their new approach. And I think we talked about Leonardo before around being one of Australia's leading generative AI companies. Raised a whole heap of money, valued at a pretty high val. And can they maintain that valuation? And so, talking to Jonathan afterwards was really interesting to see their growth and how quickly that's happened. But the interesting thing for me was they've developed their own language model, their own sort of model, around generating images. And so it's called Phoenix. So yeah, Jonathan demoed their new model. So previously they've been building on top of Stable Diffusion, or it'd prompt and help you to kind of make the imagery that they have. So it might be even worthwhile showing the video that they have around what that does. But it really is interesting. But essentially, look, what they're doing is they're making it easier, and even in our previous discussion, making it easier to design and use some of the models and to make it really useful. And one of the challenges most people have is being able to talk to large language models and get something useful out of it. And so I actually have more of an appreciation for what they're doing in terms of the interface. They did some demos on iterating on some ideas and how you can then go and use that. And so that was really interesting to see what they're doing. But I think the big thing is they're now got their own model. And their own model, I think, has been built off Stable Diffusion. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think about them developing their own model, one, and whether that's a good or a bad thing. I know there's obviously, one of the things that's been happening with Stability AI going through a lot of turmoil, and so whether that's a driver to go and do some of this. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. But, really, really interesting, really great interface. I had a real appreciation for the things that they're doing, and as a creative to be able to kind of use this tool. And, they could potentially, they're going to target those enterprise users now, not just, individuals that are using it. And I think they're trying to, aim to be the Canva in this space, and whether someone like that comes along and takes them on. It'd be really interesting. Yeah. What's your thoughts around Leonardo developing their own model?
First of all, I think it's becoming table stakes a little bit. Like it's almost like you have to develop your own model because you can't be sure that the models you're using will be available because of the threat that they will be stop being developed, or some open source provider will go pear shape and so forth. So I think if you're serious about your future, you need to worry about the fundamental technology that that your platform is running on. I think a more interesting thing to talk about in Leonardo is where are they heading with this, and is how big a deal is this thing? And I've got open questions. I'm not actually that skeptic. I'm not skeptic that it's big. It's not 100% clear where the direction of this technology and innovation is going. And the reason is that I kind of don't know if, chatting into a bot is the best way to do graphic design type work. It could be, and it's definitely a part of it. It's just where does it fit in the creative workflow? I think it's still an evolving. It's a question that the answer is still evolving. And I think that we're going to see a huge amount of innovation coming from the open AIs and Apples and so forth as they start bringing in this large language models into their products and ecosystems. And they will start wrapping it with UX, and it's going to be less about the ability to type in exactly what you want, and it's be more about the ability to use other means, including your free prompting, to a part of the workflow. And I think there's a view out there that chatbot is all you need, and soon they will be intelligent and connected to everything, and you just talk to a computer all the time. I think if you carefully watch what Apple has been launched in their underwhelming worldwide development conference, is that it's a view you at almost no point you chatted to the AI. The AI is there, but it's an API call away. So you don't chat to your inbox, but your emails are prioritized. And you don't necessarily ask questions to your photo app, but you can have really neat new features that are coming up around searching through your photos or timelining them and so forth. So basically Apple does Apple, which is to say, no, we're going to start, famously the Apple quote, the quote you see of Steve Jobs is they say, we start from the user and we build the technology backward. And not as opposed to like, we have this new technology, who can we sell it to? And I think that what we see coming up from Apple is this idea of that this AI is just going to make the current tools and operating systems smarter, but it's not a complete different operating system that just talks to you in your ear or whatnot. Now you bet that well-funded challenges to the incumbents, such as OpenAI and such as Microsoft, who are they're not in the mobile space, will start acquiring essentially UX providers and technologies that will to bring that vision they have of the new operating systems of the future to be. I just don't buy it will look like a chat to something, but it can be built on for a new stack of capabilities that they're going to be building. So bringing back to Leonardo, the question I have when I see this is like, which way are they going with it? Are they going to start building basically the Canva of the future, a tool for a workflow tool for creatives that has AI capabilities, at which point they're in a collision course with Canva, but also potentially an acquisition course with them, which is my bet. Or are they gonna sort of stay true to the notion of like you're gonna talk to the system and that's basically the workflow. Workflow is all around the language processing. That's kind of the thoughts come to mind when I see these things.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, look, I think...
is it interesting, or is it like one? Do you think it is actually interesting?
Look, I think it is interesting where they'll end up. Like, they're doing well. Like, so they're doing well. They've got a good customer base. People really like you. People are connected to that product. So I do think there's one thing that they're doing well. I think they have, some of the bigger communities, and so this is about getting. How do you win in AI? It's not just you need to have the right UX and community and traction, and I think they have a lot of that. Now, whilst I think your points are exactly right, they do have something in there that's working for people, and I think that's where if they can keep evolving that, then I think they have every chance to do some good things. I think it's changed my opinion a little bit from previously, where I thought it was, I thought it was overvalued. I still think there's a potential for them to do even better, and I can see that. But it's as with every other company, we just got to all keep going. So, the second presenter we had there as well just was really you were talking about Apple, was a company called Spatial GPT. Robert Merolda from Spatial GPT came and gave a bit of a demo. But essentially, look, they're using these Apple Vision Pros to help you design buildings, go through walkthroughs, go and be on. You don't have to be on site necessarily, but able to go. And so he gave him a bit of demo in the room with all of us in the room with him. He drew around the floor plan. And it was kind of funny because you could see him looking in there, and we could see it on the big screen, and you could see all of us looking over into like it was a virtual room, but we're all in the real world. And so, look, I think it's interesting. I think there's an interesting, use for this. Having said that, we were doing things like this 10, 12 years ago with the Google Glass as well, when we were doing that with a similar but different technology. And so I think it's like interesting use case, and what they're using generative AI to put that within the design process for using the Apple Vision Pro. And so, we're having these various technologies coming together, and I thought it was great to see the possibilities. My question is probably more around the usefulness of that and whether people will use it. But it's good to explore, and I think that's what we're seeing. In the events you're talking about, what we're seeing there. That's it's all really interesting to see that. Your quick take on whether that kind of approach using Apple Vision Pro?
I think it's still the super early stages of Apple Vision, and I mean, when a device costs $3,500, then it's the target market is very small. So there's kind of niche applications when it makes sense, and it's great to see people going after those ideas, because if you prove something and you get a killer app, that kind of moves the needle for everyone. In my mind, when the vision of the spatial computing, I think it can't be the case that everybody wears those things for a long period of time on their eyes like it's a ski goggles. It has to be either lenses who wants to wear lenses every morning? I don't know. Or really somehow, new types of optics that coming from regular glasses that are beamed into your pupil. And I think that technology is just not there yet. And everything we see, the big companies are building, it's kind of towards that vision. So the idea is that you can't just go that you have to do it incrementally. You can't just do one big leap forward. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's my current thinking on Apple Vision.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Look, and the last one I just quickly touch on was also our friends at Time Under Tension. Time Under Tension's a company that helps organizations with a consultancy around implementing generative AI in your business. And so they showcased a bit of a Gen AI product they have for people developing custom marketing tools, so to define how you want to devise a campaign, put it to market, test it, do all these things and iterate, and really delivering the speed and quality of what's happening. And so this is something that they're doing and internally, and to see that product out there was just interesting to see the practical application where you can get use from it day one. So look, it was a really great event. We're looking to do our next ones. We've got to get that out there. But once again, that community is growing, and people are really, I guess, coming together to build, to grow, and to learn. And I think that's been really interesting. So look, I think that's been really interesting what's been happening in Australia. Just one last thing before we kind of close up today. I wanted to just touch base on one of whether you've seen what's been going on with Anthropic. That's what I was about to say. One of our investments as well. But just Anthropic's latest model. What's your quick take on that? What are the implications? Because that's performing, now the best performing model on so many grounds. Really interesting. But what's your take?
I'm not surprised. I'm not like shocked. I think we're going to see a arms race around performance of bigger and better and smarter models. And I think that's, just the next chapter in that saga is the open source from Anthropic is, beating on benchmark some of the closed source. I wouldn't hold my breath for the next chapter where I think there will be, ChatGPT 5 who's winning again another and so forth. So this is great to see fierce competition in the performance of this technology. I think the parameters that people care about right now are the performance and but there's very soon, and the training costs are parameters that matter, but also inference costs and energy utilization and so forth are coming to the fore as well. So I expect there will be there will be competition on all those parameters, and if history is a guide, there will be accelerated exponential improvement on all of them. The big outlier is the energy consumption. If we need a fleet of nuclear reactors to run applications in that day and age, then that changes fundamentally the business model of software as we know it, right? So the entire idea of software is that you build it once and you can infinitely copy it and sell it. And that's why SaaS and software before that on floppy disks were considered and subscription businesses, of course, are lucrative and attract investors and therefore that fund this innovation wave. If every time you press OK, there's an incremental cost that are in the dollars, not even in the cents, then you can just see that as a choking point for the innovation and speed of which we can move here. So I'm very excited about that news. I'd love to see the data around inference and training costs as well, and start seeing how they compete on that.
Well, look, I think for me, one of the big things that stood out, and we can probably show some performance stats on how it is outperforming all the other models at this point in time, and it will change, I have no doubts. But the big thing for me with this one is that the cost of intelligence is coming down, and this is actually free. And so this is their mid-tier model. And so if that's outperforming the paid models as well as all these other things, I think it's going to be really interesting to see when their next model, the higher performing one that you pay for, is there as well. And so I think, I'm just excited to see this movement. But it will mean we're going to have this progression of a few players, which is what we've sort of thought will be the case in a few years. And so I think it's interesting times ahead. I think in terms of coding and other things, I think it's outperforming many other, any other models. But I think it's really great. Like I say, there's this race that we're getting pushed forward. It's really exciting to be part of all that. So well done to them. And like I say, I'm sure next week we'll be talking about a different provider who's going to be, doing something equally as exciting. And so, and I'm pleased that we're sort of being able to see this movement on this. Well, look, I think that's been a really interesting week around what's been happening here in Australia, particularly, and a little bit outside of Australia. But I think that's been a really great this week in AI. A real focus on what's happening in Australia. And I think if we look ahead, there's a lot more to come and a lot more for us all to be excited about in terms of AI in Australia. All right, so this is a ChatGPT 4 prompt giving us a wrap up. So that's a wrap for this week in AI. If your brain isn't fried yet, hit subscribe, leave us a review, and tell your AI loving friends. Got questions or wild AI theories? Ping us on social media or email. See you next week for more AI fun. Stay curious, stay weird, and keep those circuits buzzing. Thanks for tuning in.